Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, on our toll-free number, 800-951-0592, the website at allamericangold.com. And welcome to Friday. Yes, another week in the books. And already, man, it's 2022, just starting off. Really, think about it. Just like the last couple of years, a lot of questions remain out there. The Supreme Court yesterday saying, nope, OSHA does not have the power to enforce companies with over 100 employees, forcing their employees to be vaccinated. And if not, you got to get weekly tested. That was struck down. That's good news. Now, that doesn't prevent companies from doing it on their own, right? And, of course, we know the Biden administration, that's what they're encouraging these big companies to do. But at least as far as OSHA and fining and all of those things, that was struck down. So that is a good thing for a lot of the employers who didn't want to do it. I think it also gives some good opportunities for these companies that are, A, either thinking about it or B, doing it. Maybe the reverse course we'll see. But the other part that they didn't strike down was the healthcare workers, which apparently in the eyes of the Supreme Court, listen, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, but it just seems odd to me that the private sector people, you can make your own choice when it comes to your health, but the actual healthcare industry, you can't. So it was kind of a mixed bag, but overall positive news for all of us out there that were waiting to see what was going to happen there. I'll call it a victory. We know the three most liberal judges. It was 6-3, by the way. And I'll let you figure out the three dissenters, but they were the ones that were in the news with these crazy comments. But neither here nor there. That was good news. Today we had retail sales. That was not good. So Jason and I yesterday we were talking about, okay, here's what they're hoping for 2022, right? So if you think about what's the wish list for 2022 in the eyes of the Federal Reserve and Wall Street, and that's inflation. That's their wish list. Now, they don't want, no, don't get me wrong, right? They don't want, 10, 20, 30% inflation, but they want inflation, right? And they're hoping that the Fed can go out and do what it's doing right now, and we're going to end the taper. We're going to raise interest rates a few times. And they're hoping, beyond hope, that won't do any damage. That's what they hope. Of course, the other side of it was, what if they're wrong? Then we end up with stagflation. Of course, stagflation would be, hey, we still got the inflation, but we don't get the economic growth that goes with it. And yesterday, remember, we were talking both sides. We said Jamie Dimon, who was on the inflation side. Then I guess you had Jeffrey Gundlach, who's the bond guy. He's like, hey, I don't know what these guys are smoking, right? We're headed to recession, and he thinks interest rates can only get up to about 1.5%. But Jason, we had retail sales out for December, and it was a stinker. Down 1.9%. So let's just call it down 2%, which really plays into the stagflation issue that I think we're going to end up with in 2022, Jason.
There wasn't a big bump for Christmas shopping?
And here's what was so funny about it. Well, it was because everybody bought early, and maybe I don't know that I buy it. When you were out, I will say this, because my mom was here for Christmas, and her and my wife, they were out in the stores. And now, in fairness, most of these were talking about the supermarkets. And my wife and my mom would come back and say, man, it really wasn't that crowded. Because usually right around Christmas time, the lines get pretty long, no matter where you're at. But they had said that over and over how the lines really weren't that crowded after Christmas. It wasn't that crowded. And today, the retail sales said, yeah, guess what? They really weren't that crowded. And on top of that, Jason, we had bank earnings. We had J.P. Morgan lead off the market. Everyone was ready for the big blowout from J.P. Morgan. It didn't happen. J.P. Morgan shares are actually down today.
Well, and depending on what happens, as you've been talking, Joe, is the weakness of the markets. If it doesn't matter what stock you have, if it starts to go down, it's all going to go down a certain amount. So I'm just waiting. I'm sitting here waiting, Joe, because every time you throw out these numbers, it's another bad one, and another bad one, and another bad one, and it only takes a certain amount of these bad numbers before finally the bottom kind of falls out, and we start to have some real movement, some real actual data that shows what's actually going on economically in this country and the world, because it's not good. People don't understand how weak it gets every single year. It just gets worse and worse, Joe.
Well, yeah, and we've had this thing really when you think about 2021, really. The whole big rally was about a 6-stock rally. And I know that's, and I'm understating. It was more than 6. But the 6 stocks were by far and away the biggest part of the rally. When you look underneath that, and we've been discussing it for a long time, there's a lot of turmoil in the stock market right now. And it's just a matter, to Jason's point, if all of a sudden people are like, wait a minute, GDP growth isn't going to be what we thought, and these bigger stocks that have been riding high come back down to earth just a little bit, you're going to see oversized losses on Wall Street. But we've got a great show for you lined up. Don't touch that dial. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, and every day, seemingly, I give you, the new price hikes of the day. Today is the biggest one yet. So let's just get through it here. Eggs up 21% from December of 2020 to December of 2021. By the way, grocery stores, eggs are going, all of these items I'm going to give you, they're all going higher again. And matter of fact, probably, and I'm not the main shopper in our house, probably already have. Beef chuck roast. Okay, so we're not talking about filet mignon here. And we're not even talking about top sirloin. Right? This is probably one step above hamburger. Beef chuck roast up 15.2%. By the way, that's $7 a pound right there. Bacon up 23.7%. Ground beef. Ground beef's over $5 a pound. Up 13.6%. Pork chops up 8%. Oranges up 9%. Chicken breast up 13%. A gallon of milk up 6%. Coffee up 10%. By the way, you know what's so funny? Outside of the gallon of milk at 6%, notice how all of these are way above what the Fed says inflation is? Butter. Butter prices skyrocketing 40%. The USDA is now saying, I don't know how this, just all of a sudden, they're saying that the cost of a pound of butter is up 40%. They're saying, the USDA saying that there is a butter shortage going on. Yes, apparently the butter warehouses, Jason, are out or running out. They say the weekly average price of butter rose to $2.66 for the week that just ended here, January 7th.
There's an egg shortage too, Joe. There's an egg shortage also. It's I think we covered that a week or two ago, where the largest egg producers having trouble covering their orders, Joe. So it's
yeah, and remember, we've educated you. You know this. Listen, the supply of everything, the extra, right? The stuff it's in storage, or hey, we've got to say, you just call me up. Hey, I need another 1,000 pounds of butter. Okay, I got you. The ability to do that is gone. You call them up. Hey, I need another 1,000 pounds of butter. Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll get that to you in about 12 weeks. Oh, well, I need it now.
Joe, I saw videos out of Australia where meat sections were completely empty, not even any chicken. And these are the most concerning things because, well, we're in America, so what does that matter? Well, that means that people in Australia are going to have to pay more to get those shelves filled back up, which means there's less of it for Americans. There's competition there, Joe.
Here you go. How about the new car prices? New all-time record high, $47,100. I don't mean to laugh. There's nothing funny about it. $47,100 now is what they're calling it, the median price, if you will, for new cars. How about this one? Domino's Pizza, saying that due to soaring cost, that they're reducing, and this is kind of funny, this is how they do things too. So you have the regular inflation, and then you have what we call shrinkflation. Domino's Pizza, which you'd call up Domino's, you'd get 10 wings for $7.99. Domino's came out today and said, due to soaring cost, you will now be getting 8 wings. Yes, so essentially we went from 80 cents a wing to $1 a wing.
But
so
the box will look the same, Joe. The box will look the same.
The box will be the same. There's just going to be, let's say, if they're smart, they'll shrink the box a little bit so it looks as full, right? That's how you got to work it. How about this one? Lumber. And I know I brought this up a bunch of times. And I only bring it up because this is how desperate these clowns that call themselves our central bankers are to saying, see how we're right when we know that they're wrong. Remember when lumber prices hit the all-time record high and then it fell, and Jay Powell said, see, it's just transitory. And, of course, the very next day I told all of you, don't worry, lumber's coming right back. And I explained the whole supply, demand, and all that. I explained it all to you. Lumber prices broke over $1,000 per board foot. Well, guess what? Lumber futures yesterday rose to $1,234 per 1,000 board feet. It's up 175% from the August low. And by the way, just to give you an idea of that August low, that was still 30% higher for an August lumber price. By the way, August is usually the cheapest price for lumber, just so people know. That was 30% higher than it was supposed to be in a normal August. And, of course, now lumber prices still got a ways to go. Got about another $400 or so to get back to its all-time highs. And let's hope it doesn't. But $1,234 per 1,000 board feet. And I told you, normally what lumber costs about $200 per 1,000 board feet. So you can do the math there. And then how about this one? Remember, listen, all these masks, everyone mask it up and all of these things. Well, apparently the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, with the Omicron, they got to keep the fear going. Right, and let's face it, much easier to get. Right there, it's more contagious. Well, they're now saying, well, maybe it's time for the N95 mask. I don't know if you saw that or not. They're saying, because, and again, Jason, we'll go back to the original when this first started breaking. We were telling everybody all along, listen, if it's not an N95 mask, you're not stopping anything. Well, apparently, just the fact that the CDC has said we may have to mandate N95 masks, N95 mask went from $16.99 for a 50-pack to $79.99, Jason.
Wow. There's got to be something more than inflation in that one, man. There's something a little more than inflation and tickling that number. That is crazy.
Well, I just find it interesting. So what are you saying? Are you saying that all the masks that you've made, all of us had to go buy them? Right? We're all putting them on. Now, you're saying that those really don't work? Right? I mean, wait a minute. Right. I'm just asking a question here. So are you admitting that, oh, by the way, we made you parade around in these masks that really didn't work? I don't know, but they didn't say, hey, let's come back out with the regular old mask mandate. That's not what they said. They said, hey, you know what, we may need to come out with the N95. And, of course, that just took it. By the way, Bloomberg went a step further. They were out online saying, hey, I don't know what these guys are talking about. The best we could come up with was 20 N95 masks for $72. They said that they couldn't find the 50-pack Kimberly-Clark anywhere to be found. So very interesting. Those are the items. That was just today. Those are the items today that either hit all-time highs or are near all-time highs that are way above. There's not a single one of these things that's even remotely close to this fantasy land 7% inflation that they admitted to a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
nowhere close.
Just for like another $50 or something, Joe, you can get a roll of silver dimes from Patriot Radio. I would try to just do that instead of get those ridiculous masks that don't work. I don't care on what level. Let's just breathe a lot less and get a lot more sick wearing these masks.
I think there's you know what? Everybody stop breathing. That'll fix it.
Man.
Well, I said I was done. I lied. There's one more thing. Shipping expenses into the United States have hit another new all-time record high. They're saying that shipping goods to the customers in the United States spiked 43.6% from December of 2020. And if you actually go to 2019, shipping costs throughout the United States. So this isn't just put it on the big ship from China to Long Beach. This is put it on the big ship from China to Long Beach. Then it gets to Long Beach. They put it on a truck. That truck drives it to the warehouse. They put it in the warehouse. In the warehouse, another truck picks it up, brings it to the store. Up 63% from 2019. And that is the freight index, the Cass Freight Index, which is at a new all-time record highs. And just to put it in perspective, if you go back to before the crash, so before the housing crash and all of that, you were looking at a freight number that we're up about I'm just doing the math in my head here, almost 400% now. 400% more to ship freight in the United States than it was before 2007.
And Joe, that's the number one factor as to why Tahibo tea here went up in price, and Milan kept his prices as low as he could. But that's shipping from South America, so it doesn't have to just be shipping from China. It's shipping from anywhere coming into the United States.
Yeah, and again, it's not just putting it on the boat. And for those of you that don't know, for you Arizona listeners, one of the great products we sell at the radio station in Colorado, Tahibo tea. The price of a pound of Tahibo tea went from $35 to $50, and Milan was telling us, he goes, it wasn't. He goes, the tea went up, right? What he had to pay for the tea went up, but he said really almost all of the increase. And you think about that's a huge increase when you talk about $15 on $35. That's almost 43%. So think about this. One of our distributors says, hey, inflation's 43% for me. But he had told Jason and I the biggest, by far, part of the increase had to do with the actual cost of shipping the tea.
And then the bags disappearing, too. The bags, they actually has the sticker on it that has his label on it. The
bags with his logos on it. Yeah, they can't.
It's crazy what's going on in the world. I mean, he actually said he bought all of the available plain bags and he's going to put his own sticker on them because all of the labeled bags are gone. And he's like, you know what? If they can't get me more plain bags, I'm going to be selling this in baggies as if it's like marijuana or something because there won't be any actual paper bags.
You know, you brought up something interesting. So Arlene, one of Arlene's kids is getting ready to get married. And Arlene she's a mega planner. You know, and Arlene and my mom have so many similarities. You know, and my mom's an old school lady out there, and the funny thing about it was my mom liked to put money in envelopes. She was a big envelope. Put money in envelopes, you know, this is for the Joey's basketball shoes, and this is going to be for my brother Matt's. This is going to be for his baseball dues, or you know, whatever it may be, right? She'd have the little envelopes, and Arlene, she has her little envelopes, but she's getting ready. Her son's going to be getting married, and she would happen to be at Party City. And she came back and she's like, there's nothing in the store. The store is empty. And then Brittany, Brittany's off today because her granddaughter's 7th birthday. And she was like, oh my God, I went to Party City too. Jason, there's nothing in the store.
Uh-oh, what's going on there? Yeah, empty shelves, Joe. When I saw the Australian videos of the meat section, completely empty.
800-951-0592. Gold's just hanging out today. Really not really doing much of anything. $18.20 per ounce today. $18.20. That's your spot gold price today. Silver just below $23 today. Yesterday we had a special on $10 liberties. We sold through all of those, but today I've got a really good amount. Finally, this is on the $5 liberty. So these are the quarter ounce $5 liberties. And here's the thing: these are going to be a little nicer than what we normally carry, and that's saying something because we carry really nice product to begin with, but these are going to be all XF grade $5 liberties. I've got a couple hundred of them. Right now, a regular price on a $5 liberty is $600. So we're going to go up a couple grades here, $595. So you get a little nicer looking coin, if you will. Same amount of gold. Hey, but you got to pay less money for it today. 800-951-0592. And you take the time, just keep adding to your portfolios as we kind of watch all this stock. And, you know, we were talking about, is it going to be inflation? Is it going to be stagflation? You know, Jay Powell said a few days ago, okay, you know, listen, we're going to wait, you know, we're going to do something, but let's just see what happens, you know, the second half of 2022. Well, according to the CEOs of the world out there, Jay Powell does not have his pulse on the finger. And listen, we've told you this over and 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 over again. You have no idea the amount of money they really spent. It is trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And not just, you know, we can see about, oh, well, the deficit's 30 trillion. No, I'm not talking about that. This is secretive trillions of dollars in overnight operations and bailouts and things that you didn't see. But almost 60% of the world's CEOs are now saying, listen, inflation is not going away at all in 2022. Matter of fact, most of them are like, listen, it may not even be gone until mid-2023 or beyond. It's so bad now that inflation, when you used to talk to these global CEOs, and they'd have all these surveys, they'd say blah, 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 and they talk about what's worrying you. Inflation used to be way down the list. Matter of fact, in 2019, inflation was 22nd on their list. So think about all the things that were, barely a factor. Inflation is now second, only behind COVID, as the number one issue they're facing. 95% of all manufacturing CEOs said that they are facing significant upward pricing pressure on raw materials, wages, and other inputs. And so you think about it, listen, that's almost everybody. And again, what happens when the manufacturers feel it? Well, the manufacturers raise the price, what means what? You're going to end up paying more. And this is why I said when we sit there and we look at all of this stuff, we're still early. There's a lot more price increases to come. But when we talked about money spent, remember when, and this is going back to like 2019, remember they were doing tapering the first time.
Yep.
Right? Remember that, Jason,
Yep.
the first round of tapering? Remember their balance sheet was over $4 trillion, and they had this great plan, right? Remember, they actually raised interest rates a couple of times.
Yep, started in late 15,
right?
Yep.
Right? They raised interest rates a couple of times. Of course, then they were like, never mind. Go back to zero. And then they said, but don't worry, we're going to start tapering now. Of course, that didn't last very long. And Bank of America, remember, I covered it right here. In May, Bank of America had written a letter to the Federal Reserve saying, what are you idiots doing? Now, they didn't use the word idiot. That was my word. We're going to have a huge problem in just a few months. You're going to have to do the exact opposite. And, of course, that's exactly what happened on September 16th, 2019. One day before the Federal Reserve embarked on its first emergency repo loans since the financial crisis. Now, we don't hear about it. Right? Matter of fact, they've actually taken it off their balance sheet. They used to show us what it was. They just got rid of it. Well, why? Well, because it's a number we don't like. And guess what? Wall Street doesn't like it, so therefore they're glad it's gone too. So then, you know what? They don't have to talk about it. Right? Kind of like, well, it's out of sight, out of mind. Right? Someone pooped in the corner. Well, put a piece of newspaper over it and we'll pretend that it doesn't smell.
And they sold some
Think
of their.
about this.
And Joe,
So let me tell you what.
They did start selling part of their balance sheet too in 2018, 2019. They were doing what they're talking about doing right now. They're I think we're gonna sell off that balance sheet. I think it went from 4.4 trillion down to like 3.7 trillion or something. They were
something like that,
yep.
Right? And this is when they stopped. Apparently, the day before, so go back September 16th. So it would have been the 15th of September. And remember, we warn you about having too much money in the bank all the time here. Apparently, unbeknownst to anybody, they had one of their CDSs blow up. So we're back to credit default swaps. Remember that term? Remember that term from the financial crisis? What? Excuse me? Oh, yeah. What we didn't know was this particular swap was $2.7 billion. Okay, so think how big these things are. Right? This is just one. Right? And for those of you that don't know what a credit default swap is, picture, and it can be anything, commercial loans, home loans, auto loans. They tear them up into thousands of pieces, and they put, hey, this particular credit default swap's got little bitty pieces of homes from California to New York and everything in between, and it totals $2.7 billion. We're going to talk about how much the Fed spent to cover this up. You're not going to believe it. XF $5 Liberties at XF just means extra fine. Extra fine $5 Liberties at $5.95, cheaper than our circulated ones today at 800-951-0592. Now I'm going back to 19. Don't worry, I'm going to tie it to today. Okay, so there's a blow up, $2.7 billion. The very next day, the Federal Reserve launches its repo operation. And all of a sudden, the balance sheet blows up. So to Jason's point, we went to 3.7 or 3.8 trillion. Now we're almost at 9. Okay, so think about that. So from 2019 and a little over 2 years, the Fed's balance sheet has more than doubled. But they spent a cumulative, a $2.7 billion blow up from September of 19 to June 20th, or I'm sorry, July 2nd, 2020. This is when they took it off the sheet. So I don't know if the operation is, we don't know what happened to it. It just disappears. The Fed spent a cumulative $11.23 trillion. You heard me right. $11 trillion on a $2.7 billion default. Now, I got to give Wall Street on parade. The Martins they do great research. They're speculating that it had to do with a UK tour operator called Thomas Cook. They're a travel industry that filed for bankruptcy on the same day of the default swap. And oh, by the way, it just happened to be that Thomas Cook, who I've never heard of, had a credit derivatives worth, lo and behold, $2.7 billion, Jason.
That's right, Joe. Yeah, that was, these are the things we were talking about in 2019, the stuff that we knew about on the front end of the repo problems. And I knew that a market stress was coming. I didn't know that coronavirus would be their big scary monster that they'd bring into the room. But Joe, the other countries of the world, like China sold more treasuries in December of 19 than at any other time. And Japan started selling U.S. treasuries, which they'd really almost never do.
Well, and again, right, so all of these little ancillary things that you were pointing out were happening, right? And it started with this event.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, here comes coronavirus, so no one pays attention.
That's right. Got to have the monster to point the finger at, Joe, so nobody looks at the man behind the curtain. That's the way it's got to be.
So let's fast forward to today. Now all of a sudden, here's what you're going to tell me. Okay. Why is J.P. Morgan down today? Because they beat, not by a lot, they did beat the number. But nobody was very impressed. And remember, they're hoping for inflation. What happens if we don't get it? In other words, retail sales, which were in the toilet for December, continue to struggle. Inflation's running through the roof. And all of a sudden, we get stagflation instead, which is soaring prices in an economy that's in decline. Jeff Gunlitz, he says, I don't know yet, but I'm on recession watch. And doesn't think the Fed, he thinks the Fed, when it gets to 1.5%, that's it. That's when the recession's going to hit. I don't know, but what are the default swaps going to look like if that ends up happening, Jason?
Yeah, it doesn't sound too good, does it, Joe? It doesn't sound too good. I mean,
what are we talking about here? Are we going to have a balance sheet that's $9 trillion, and then all of a sudden the Fed's like, oh, wait, we got another problem right now. All of a sudden the balance sheet's 18 trillion, 20 trillion, 30 trillion, right? It's nonsensical. And this is why I'm saying I don't like the way this looks, because this should have been, again, it would be one, right? Remember Lehman Brothers. Well, everyone knew Lehman Brothers. This was a travel agency. You mean they were going to bring down the whole credit default swap market? Really? 2.7 billion. Yes, that's a lot of money, but not. Dude, these credit default swaps are in the hundreds of trillions of dollars.
Right. This Very dangerous.
It's minuscule. The Fed's in a corner. You know they're in a corner because I've educated you. They're in the corner. There is no way out of this.
Joe, the $120 billion in purchases that they're tapering away from here recently, when they do their tapering and they get their purchases down to zero, and maybe they even flirt with actually lowering the balance sheet, and then the interest rates go up a couple of quarter points. When this thing burns back the other way, it's like, oh, well, the markets are dying. We got to come in and save it again. When they reverse course, to print enough money to kick the can down the road, you may be seeing monthly purchases of like $700 billion or $800 billion a month. That's how much above the $120 billion that they're going to have to go to try to make this thing work the way they're looking at it, Joe. Can you imagine those monthly purchases, how big they're going to be?
Yeah, and you think about it, right? Because this is what we've seen. Every time we see it, right, they get bigger. I mean, remember the first bailout was only like $700 billion?
That's right.
And now we find out, hey, by the way, in like 8 months, the Fed pumped in $11 trillion into the credit swap market. Yeah. I hope you're getting ready. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. 800-951-0592, XF $5 Liberties. These are the quarter ounce. These are the old $5 libs back when our money was actually gold. Think about this, it was $5 from 1866 to 1907. It bought the exact same amount of stuff from whatever you could buy for $5 in 1866, you could buy the same exact stuff in 1907. Think about that. Name me one thing that you could buy in like 1970 or 1980 and you can still buy it today and it's the same price. Right? I mean, gas was like, I don't even know. What was it? 25, 26, 27 cents?
Yep.
How about this one? It just doesn't stop. Retail prices for lettuce are now soaring more than any other food item tracked by the government. I don't mean to laugh. Romaine lettuce prices up 61%. I mean, it just doesn't end, Jason. Everywhere we turn around. And again, why did this happen? It's not a supply problem. That's what they want you to believe. Oh, well, it's just supply, bottlenecks. No, it's because they printed so much damn money.
Yep. That same video I watched in Australia with the empty meat section, they had an almost empty produce section. Same stores.
And so when you're looking at what's really happening here, I don't think they're not that good. We sometimes we give them way too much credit. I don't see a way that the central bank somehow finds the mythical unicorn fairy that allows them to end taper and starts raising rates, and yet somehow the economy just keeps growing. It's not going to happen that way. You know it, and I know it. These prices aren't going down. The bottleneck, if you will, that they keep blaming, it's actually gotten worse. Christmas is over. How could it be getting worse? Right? The amount of freight should be slowing down. It's not slowing down. The pile-ups and the pile-ups, it's never ending. And when you really look at what we're really in for, I think, unfortunately, we're in for a huge shock to the system. I think this is going to be a very short-lived pretend fight on inflation. And I would not be surprised as early as either late 2022 or early 2023, Jason, they're already going back the other way. We're going to go back to zero. Here comes the balance sheet stuff again, right? All that stuff all over again.
I find it hard for them to make it out of 2022 without a reversing course. I don't know what month, but it would be hard. It'd be hard to see as fast as it's moving, Joe, for them to be able to get into 2023 before reversing course. Because the inflation we're talking about, and you talk about this new inflation. Well, the inflation's been going on since 1913. The Federal Reserve's job is to steal from the public for the profit of their shareholders, and this is the way it's been designed since they put the central bank in place. So this inflation that's happening, Joe, the empty shelves, I don't talk a lot about empty shelves, but the reason you talk about the empty shelves now is because the inflation that continues will make the severity of the empty shelves worse as the year goes on, Joe, and they're going to have to fix that problem. So they're going to have to reverse course pretty quickly, I would say.